finally figured something out with my swing that I have been trying to figure out for years. Hear me out on this. It has to do with our hand placement when we're hitting. Now, a preface before I say any of this is a very elite hitting lesson, and so a lot of the terminology that I'm going to be using in this might not be familiar to you if you're a younger player or inexperienced, but if you are experienced, just bear with me. I feel like this is very good information. So, that being said, as far as hand placement goes, I've never really knew where to start with my load, and here's what I mean. If I'm going to load up, do my hands, are they better off back here? Are they better off tucked in close to my body? Are they better off away like Matt Olson? Are they better off, is my bat better tipping forward like Barry Bonds? Or is it better staying almost back this way like Ronald Acuna Jr.? There are a whole lot of different ways that we can position our hands, and what I want to talk about today is finding the optimal position for your hands specifically. This is something you have to learn for your swing, and is something that is unique and individual for every player, okay? This is what I learned about my swing, okay? Growing up, I started by having my hands out like this, the bat facing kind of away from me, and it felt very simple because I felt like I could just go from here and then just pull the bat through the zone, okay? What I noticed though was that to the pull side, I had a very hard time getting under the ball, and everything that I'd hit to the pull side was top spun, and it was not ever with backspin to the pull side in the air, okay? So then once I got to high school, my coach had me move my hands back here a little bit more, and that helped me a lot. I started hitting the ball with backspin to the pull side, okay? Then I got to college and I got even more like this. I started tilting my bat like this, and it started helping me even more. Now this is where I want to pause, right? Because when something starts working with your swing, then feel free to go to the other end of the extreme with it, okay? And again, also understand this is personal preference. A guy like Ronald Acuna Jr., he starts his hands here. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is how does your hand position affect your bat path, because it's going to affect different players differently. A guy like Ronald Acuna needs to start his bat path right here, and he's so strong he can just pull his hands through, and he naturally has a tendency to pull his hands up through the zone. And the reason I say that is the only way to get your barrel from here on plane with the ball, meaning moving slightly upward into the baseball, is if it feels like our hands are moving up into the ball. That being said, guys like Barry Bonds felt like he was chopping the ball into the ground. Why did it feel like chopping the ball into the ground for Barry Bonds? Because his initial starting position with his hand in his barrel was very tipped forward. And so that being said, Barry Bonds, when he feels like he's pulling his hands down, his barrel turns, and all of a sudden he's on line or on plane with the ball. So there seems to be an inverse relationship between how we understand our bat path and where our hands initially start. So if our hands start with more of a tip, it seems like we're naturally going to get more under the ball or on plane with the ball naturally by thinking down, opposed to if our bat starts with a little less tip, then we might need to think more up with our hands to get on line with the ball. That being said, in my swing, I always had the tendency to start a little bit more here and a little more relaxed with my hands, opposed to turned in this way with some more bat tip over my helmet. Now, for a guy like me, my biggest struggle in college was getting on top of the ball. I had a scout tell me one time, you hit the ball on the ground more often than any other prospect that we were looking at, and at the same time, when you do hit the ball in the air, it goes over the fence more than any other prospect that we're looking at. That being said, my bat path naturally tends to go down, and I finally figured out that the more bat tip or more coil that I get here, the more I'm able to naturally get on plane with the ball for my swing and for my body type. So the conclusion that I came to here is, if you are a player that naturally tends to hit the ball on the ground and naturally has a very downward bat path, then I recommend that you just try getting a little bit more coil back here and maybe a little bit more tilt in your swing. Try it out. Maybe it doesn't work, maybe it doesn't have the same effect on you. But for me, a guy who tends to hit the ball on the ground, the more coil I get here, the more my bat gets online and up into the baseball, and I've started backspinning balls even to the pull side. If you are a guy who tends to hit the ball in the air and tends to almost like turn behind the ball a little bit early, and you kind of flare inside out pitches, then what you need to potentially think about is getting a little bit less bat tilt here. Instead of getting here in your load, you get to a more relaxed position here in your load. Okay, so that's another thing to try. One more dimension to this, I'm going to turn sideways for this. One more thing to consider through all of this is pulling the hands in a little bit closer. One thing that another adjustment adjustment that I made over the past few days, pulling my hands in a little bit tighter this way, and that has helped me stay inside the ball throughout my swing, opposed to if I'm starting away from my body, the next move is going to pull this bat into my body, which is again going to exacerbate the issue of cutting across the ball and getting pulling it to the pull side with topspin. So all that to say, here are some different things that I think will help you understand your swing better. And remember, not everyone's swing, no one's swings are the same, and not everyone is going to have the same results after trying a different feel. But that being said, I encourage you to try this. If you're a player who tends to hit the ball on the ground, then like myself, try getting a little bit more coiled, maybe a little bit more tilt, and pull those hands in close to your body. If you're someone who tends to get under the ball and all that good stuff, maybe consider giving yourself a little bit more space here, and also maybe consider not giving yourself so much of a tilt here in your load. That is my recommendation to you. As always, I'm Coach RAC with Headbanger Sports. Let's grow.